Connect to Congress. I'm Raygan Lopez, and I sat down with Senator Ted Cruz for an exclusive interview. Among the things we talked about, two of the hottest topics in Texas, the one big beautiful bill and immigration.
There's been a crackdown on deportation. What does that mean for West Texas and our farmers, our ranchers, and our producers who may rely on migrant work?
My view on immigration, I've long summed up in 4 words. Legal, good. Illegal, bad. And I think we should welcome people who come legally. There's a right way to come to this country. You follow the rules, you stand in line. That's how my father came from Cuba in 1957. He came on a student visa.
But in some parts of Texas, like San Antonio, immigrants are showing up for court only to find out their case has been dropped.
They leave the courtroom and they're deported. What do you say to people that are maybe discouraged to do it the legal way?
So listen, they're not doing it the legal way if they came illegally. And if you look at what the president is prioritizing violent criminals.
There are multiple reports that some rural hospitals will have to close due to Medicaid cuts in the one big beautiful bill. I asked Cruz if he can reassure communities in the Texas Panhandle that won't happen.
There's a lot of misinformation about this bill, and we've seen the Democrats and a lot of the media spreading attacks that just aren't true. And so they say that there are cuts in spending. That's simply not true. You look at Medicaid, Medicaid continues. Every year, Medicaid spends more money than it did last year. So it does not cut a penny from Medicaid.
Instead, the senator says there's now a work requirement to qualify for Medicaid.
So I think the work requirements in Medicaid are really important, that if you're a young, healthy adult, you ought to be working. And I think government policies that encourage young, healthy adults not to work are actually hurting the recipients of that aid. I believe every American wants the dignity of work.
I also asked Cruz how the one big beautiful bill specifically impacts the Texas Panhandle. He mentioned a provision called the Livestock Indemnity Program.
So that provides insurance for farmers and ranchers. But secondly, when you have livestock that are lost to natural disasters, such as the wildfires, those livestock will be reimbursed by the federal government at a rate of 75% of their market value.
The program is retroactive to the beginning of last year, allowing farmers and ranchers impacted by the wildfire to receive relief. In Amarillo, Raygan Lopez, ABC 7 News. Stealing from the homeless. I'm Raygan Lopez, and I'm outside the federal courthouse in Amarillo, where the second of 2 city employees will be sentenced for stealing money intended to help the homeless find housing. As we reported last week, Vanessa Robinson pleaded guilty to stealing $121,000. Court documents obtained by ABC 7 say Robinson created various procedures that allowed her to live rent-free at the expense of these programs intended to help the most destitute. The money was from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. We reached out to HUD multiple times last week and again Tuesday morning to ask if it is considering reducing or eliminating the amount of funds it gives to the city of Amarillo, whether HUD asked for any safeguards to be put in place to prevent future embezzlement by City of Amarillo employees, and what, if anything, has the City of Amarillo told HUD it is doing to prevent fraud in the future. HUD told us it is looking into the issue but has not gotten back with an answer. Nearly 6 months ago, a second City of Amarillo employee was sentenced to 2 years in prison after stealing $465,000 from the homeless. Amy Dixon was supposed to pay landlords a fair market rent in exchange for housing people who needed assistance. Instead, she created a fictitious landlord and deposited the rent checks into her personal bank account. After her sentencing, we spoke to her former boss, Jason Riddlesberger, the director of community development, outside the courthouse, but he declined to comment. We reached out to the city again last week to speak with Riddlesberger. We want to know what community development is doing to make sure HUD funds are not embezzled going forward. The city declined to let Riddlesberger go on camera, but released a written statement which says, in part, the City of Amarillo recognizes concerns regarding the misuse of federal housing assistance funds by former employees. We have since worked closely with HUD to further strengthen safeguards, improve financial oversight, and reinforce accountability measures. Public trust is paramount, and we remain committed to upholding the highest standards of ethical service to ensure assistance reaches those who need it most. Court documents in Robinson's case mention a co-conspirator, but when questioned by ABC 7, the U.S. Attorney's Office would not say whether that is Dixon or a third city employee. We'll continue to follow this story, including Robinson's sentencing, and we'll let you know what happens. In Amarillo, Raygan Lopez, ABC 7 News.
The motive here is inexcusable. It's hate-fueled anger. It's not more complicated than that. It's stupid, ugly, impulsive violence, and something that we should not accept as a community, something that we will not accept as law enforcement.
Police say the accused killer, Robert Knox, had gotten into an argument inside bodegas over someone flirting with his friend's girlfriend, 21-year-old Nariah Hayes. Knox, Hayes, and her boyfriend, Britt Cave, left the club, then came back at closing time around 2 a.m. Police say Knox got out of a car and started firing randomly into the crowd. 25-year-old John Love Luema, who was not involved in the original argument, was killed. Knox and Hayes are being charged with 1-count murder and 8 counts of misconduct/discharge of a deadly firearm. Despite Cave being in the back seat while the shooting occurred, Cave was charged with public intoxication.
There was nothing to say he conspired any about the shooting or any involvement in what occurred. So he just happened to be in the car at the time.
The 3 suspects fled the scene when an unnamed Good Samaritan followed them, leading to the arrest of Knox, Hayes, and Cave.
They felt it was their duty to follow and call 911 and report the location of the suspects. We're very proud of them. I'm very glad they helped get this case resolved within minutes instead of hours or days.
Chief Birkenfeld says they're looking into holding the nightclub accountable as well. Will there be any consequences for the bar/nightclub?
Certainly looking at any business that has an alcohol service permit, we look at that, we report that to TABC. We've done that in the past with Chesney's because of the problems there. 2 years ago, we filed a protest on the renewal of their license, and we've yet to hear back from TABC on that. But there's certainly the potential for consequences there. We're going to look at every avenue.
Knox is in jail on a $600,000 bond. Hayes' bond is $400,000. To watch the full press conference, visit ABC 7 Amarillo on YouTube. In Amarillo, Raygan Lopez, ABC 7 News. According to the crash report obtained only by ABC 7, Assistant Chief Ken Funtek was involved in a hit-and-run on June 19th. It happened here in the parking lot of Macaroni Joe's off I-40 and Kentucky. The report says Funtek backed his pickup truck into a Hyundai Tucson. A source tells ABC 7 that as Funtek left the scene, someone wrote down Funtek's license plate. I reached out to APD for an interview with Funtek. We want to know about his involvement in the crash and why he left without at least leaving a note on the SUV. We also want to know if he was disciplined by the department. A spokesperson said, quote, "Sending this request to the chief and I will get back with you." However, that hasn't happened yet. I also called the victim and am still waiting to hear back from him. We know the crash was not caught on surveillance camera, but the crash report shows what happened. Funtek is currently second in command. The city is searching for a new police chief. In February, Chief Martin Birkenfeld retired after he wrote a letter in support of a convicted child predator. As only ABC 7 reported, the city paid Birkenfeld $175,000 to retire after 35 years. Funtek has been with the department almost that long. He started as a patrolman in February 1993. We'll continue to push for answers from the department. In Amarillo, Raygan Lopez, ABC 7 News.